Welcome to another episode of The Scrumptious Woman. I have with me Dr. Aumatma, and I have read your bio, and you are not only incredibly accomplished, but you have your own podcast, you have an app. You are helping women all over the world, and it's a real honor to have you on board.
Thank you so much for having me, Juliette. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you. So I was reading a little bit about you, and obviously I'm going to get you to explain a little bit more. Actually, why don't you explain? Yeah, because it's like certified, and there's quite a few titles.
Yeah, there's a lot of titles. And I would say the simplified version is I'm a naturopathic doctor, which is basically we go to medical school, but our approach is very mind, body, spirit, holistic, and with the belief that our body has the ability to heal itself. And I think that's the most beautiful, unique thing about naturopathic medicine.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we need help, and sometimes we need some things that will help support the healing, but our body does really have it within ourselves to heal. So yeah, I think that's the big title. And then within that I have a specialty in endocrinology, and within that a specialty in fertility. So that's been many years of doing that. And through the work that I've been doing in fertility, I've really been stepping into this place of our body has wisdom, and our hormones, our womb has incredible amounts of wisdom that we are often disconnected from. I really like, as passionate as I am about fertility, I'm equally passionate about women accessing the wisdom that we have within ourselves, even if we don't want to create a baby. So businesses and other things can be babies too.
Right, and that's the beauty, right? That I call that the scrumptiousness, the
Yeah.
chi, the orgasm, the life force of life. And we may not want to create babies with it. Which also brings me to a different point. It's like even if you don't have a womb anymore, or even
Yeah.
if, say, that you're in the menopause or postmenopause, you still have access to that energy.
Yeah, because it's the second chakra, which is the energetic center of life force energy. It's the center of abundance, of sexuality, of fertility. It's all the same, right? So it is energetically, we still have that center regardless of what physical change our body has been through.
So true. And I think this is where people sometimes can get a little bit hijacked thinking like, oh, but I don't have my womb anymore. I've had a hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that I do, and it sounds like you do as well, is actually connecting people to that energy again and just
Yeah.
recognizing that that courses through you. Now, I read one part of your bio where it says it's not about speaking louder, but listening deeper. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I came to this with um, spending a year at a monastery, and I was sharing that with one of my mentors, and he was like, "So what did you do there?" And I was like, "I don't know, just be in silence and listen." And he's like, "What? Be in silence for a year?" you know? And
It's
and
hardcore.
yeah, it is. And I really, as I started reflecting on that period of time, I said, that is actually the start of where I feel like I was able to reconnect and listen to, honestly, like the message within the womb, the message within my heart, like the kind of, what are you here for? What is your purpose in this world? And how are you going to help create that in like manifest that into physical form? And that became the question that I sat with for the year. And I feel like from it came all of this, like, this is what I want to do. And like, it hasn't stayed the same, right? It's always going to keep evolving. So what's been really important for me is being able to access that wisdom regularly and to have touch points to say, "Okay, am I listening? Am I being with that throughout the course of my life?" And navigating and making sure that the steps that I take, or what I quote unquote do in the world is being reflected or is a reflection of where my spirit is leading me. And we often lose that voice. Like, honestly, I feel like so many of us are taught to disconnect from it. And it is what I've noticed is men or the masculine energy is very attuned and they are actually intuitive. They don't acknowledge it the same way. They're just like, oh, I just know. I just know. And women are like, well, I have this intuition, but I'm going to second guess it. And I'm going to like, is it really true? And I don't know if I really am meant to do this. And like, I've been through all of this myself. So I get it. I'm not saying that I'm different, but more that I have observed is that, and I get this beautiful like opportunity to work with couples. So I see how men and women show up slightly differently, even in the context of creating babies. And I have noticed how different it is for men. Like they hear something or they get an intuition about something and they're like, no, that's just not it for me. And they're like really clear. And a woman will be like, well, I think I maybe want to, I don't know if I should. And like, you know, like the push and pull and we really are taught from a very early place that we can't be entrusting that voice within ourselves. And then we go into boardrooms or we may be sitting around tables of really high power people. And then in those moments, we are not accessing this beautiful gift that we have within ourselves. And instead, we are following the logic and we're like working from the head up, right? Neck up. And we're saying, right, like logic says this and I should do this. And we'll second guess everything. But we will never like pause to be like, actually, this is my intuition. And like, we're not taught to value it enough. So we don't bring it into the spaces that we show up in leadership often.
Isn't it crazy? I call it, we have a lot of energetic and emotional interference that actually, kind of like interferes with being in our truest essence, in our highest power, in whatever you want to call it, right? In your scrumptiousness, let's just call it that. And the funny thing is that this slowing down is difficult. And I even noticed it today, like Kira, my team said, oh, I helped her get on or something or whatever. And she's ready for you. So good luck. You have fun in your meeting. And I just come out of another meeting. And I was like, oh my God, I need to rush. And I was like, no, you're actually just going to go and dance and just move the stuff through your body. And you're going to get back into your body. You've been working a lot today. And I've just, there are days like that you just have a lot. But it's those 7 minutes that I came back to my breath, came back to my body, and I was like, oh, this feels good. Oh, yeah, this way. Okay, that's what it's all about. And it's like, and you can't lead people through things or through an interview if you're not in your body and if you don't actually walk your walk, talk your talk, do what you what you preach.
You got it. Like really being able to step into our body, into the wisdom that we have. And when we are in the mode that I see so many women in all the time, which is like, go, go, go. I have to do all this stuff that's on my to-do list. I used to do this as well. There's more on the to-do list than any human can possibly do in a day. And then you're like beating yourself up because like, oh, I didn't get through my whole list. I was like, okay, but what if my list just had less things on it, right? Like
what if the list actually has things that bring you joy, right? What are two things there that will really bring me a lot of joy today?
Yes. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. So like really my passion right now is how do we reignite this part of ourselves and reconnect and just have more spaces where this energy is welcome and like helping create more of that in the world.
Beautiful. And I see so many similarities with what we do, although it's very different. I get people back in touch. And when I talk about touch, most people are like, oh my God, that's sexual touch. You're talking about sexual touch. Like, be, but I'm not. But you just see how words have been so hijacked already,
Yeah.
and how also in different cultures they mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
I just got, and I got this download about the touch
Yeah.
languages, a bit like the love languages, that
Yeah.
there are 5 different touch languages. There's physical, obviously, there's energetic, there's emotional, there's spiritual, and there's erotic. But they're not all the same. And you can be touched by a sunset and
Mm.
how incredibly you just connected you feel to yourself in
Yeah.
that moment in nature. And it sounds
Yeah.
like it's very similar to what you do, but then I wanted to pinpoint it like where you're helping people with fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had 4 kids in 3 years' time, but it wasn't always easy,
Yeah.
because I've had like 8 miscarriages as well. So I would have had
Oof.
lots of children if it had worked.
Yeah.
There's a way that the body knows that things shouldn't always work. But if people are so highly strung and doing, the body braces it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you teach them there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's so important when we are in do mode, which I think of as very masculine energy. And fertility is, in essence, feminine, right? The ability to receive and create new life is feminine energy at its
Completely.
best. What I say for my amazing high power CEO women that are like, okay, what do I need to do to have a baby? Like they're like, come with the checklist. And I want to meet them there because that's how their brain works. That's how they're trained. But slowly, and I love what you said earlier about bringing things that bring you joy. So we have a practice called the joy jar, which is,
Yes.
and
Love that.
this is for my micromanaging. I don't have an hour every day to do things that are joyful for me. So I'm like, okay, you can put like 3 different color post-it notes and you decide what those colors are and dedicate each color to how much time you need for that thing that brings you joy. And just make a list and like brainstorm all the things that bring you joy, put them into this joy jar. And then once a day, you're picking something based on the amount of time that you have. Pick something that will bring you joy. And these are going to be things that are going to fill your cup.
Mm-hmm.
Not, some people are like, well, I could just binge on TV. That brings me joy. And I'm like, that's fine, but we're going to need to pick some things that are like, that's fine on occasion. And like, not every day is that, right? So maybe it's intentional watching Love is Blind or whatever that thing is that is bringing you joy, but also balancing it with things that are going to nourish and nurture your body and nourish and nurture your relationship potentially, right? So a lot of times fertility just pulls so much out of a couple, and even though they're doing this thing to express love and joy in the world of having a child, they are being pulled towards this very medicalized version of making babies, and even the words change there, right? So how do we receive and create versus how do we make a baby? And those things are going to be very different. So to create and like re-embrace that relationship, the intimacy that the couple has, doesn't have to be sexual, like you said earlier. It can be emotional. It can be, hey, we're just going to be present with each other for 15 minutes. So these things are the things that I want to encourage them to put into the joy jar, to even explore things that they don't always do. That I have a client right now who is 44 and she's got a lot of hormonal things going on, but her biggest win that she has shared week after week has been, I'm going on walks and actually enjoying them. She started with like, I'm forcing myself to walk because you told me I have to all the way now to I enjoy this. I look forward to it. And she's extended the time from like 5 minutes a day to an hour a day
Oh,
over the last
wow.
4 months.
Really makes
Right?
time for
Yeah.
it. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So it's really like these small little changes that are going to shift her body, her physiology, but also her emotional and mental state to embracing more being, less doing. And if you're doing, then you're doing from this place of what are you being called into rather than what do you have to make yourself do because you have to.
And this is already the energy behind have to, must do. Yeah, you can already feel it. It feels lacking and it feels like, like heavy. We have to do it instead of like, oh, I choose to do that. Right. And I love where you actually have time containers, where the notes are time containers, because this is one of the things that I notice with couples that they'll be like, oh yeah, we're going to go on a date night. And I'm like, my idea is always like, do a date morning if you can, because at night you're going to be tired. And then they're like, oh, well, we want to do like 3 hours of touch. I'm like, you know what? Let's start with 5 minutes and then build it up to 15
Yeah.
and build it up to 30. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, because that much attention holding for, for both of you is actually quite a bit of capacity. And you can't go riding a bike if you don't know how to do the first bits anymore. And if you've got to retrain that muscle. And also, because I get a lot of men to touch their partners, especially after sexual trauma,
Yeah.
where all of a sudden they shut down and they hadn't quite realized. For the men, it's also triggering. It's like if I then guide and go to the left a little bit, hover, stop there. And it's all like non-erotic that I teach them. Non-sexual, but it gives them an idea of what to do in the bedroom afterwards. The men, their like trigger goes off. It's like, what am I not doing it right? And like, yes, you're doing it right. And ground yourself. Get those thoughts out of your body because she can sense them. Put your attention back on her. And it's just, we notice those little things that I love your 3 colors, different time frames, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. Beautiful.
It came out of, all the busyness that people have and they're like, but I don't have an hour every day. That was my solution, was like, okay, how can we do this in a way that doesn't overwhelm you, that makes it doable, where you're like, okay, well, today I have an hour. Maybe today I pick one of the longer things to do and I want to spend the time. But then other days I only have 5 minutes and that's okay. Like there's still things that can bring you joy for 5 minutes.
And that's the beauty, right? And I know that you teach about this as well, where small little steps but doing them over a series of days really can make new neural pathways. This is why I teach something, a kinesthetic anchor that has people feel safe, just, the fingers touching, using the Chinese meridians as well. But it's helped over 600 people in the middle of, I always get sit next to someone who's terrified of flying. So I'm there, like women, honestly, the moment we take off and they're like shaking, I'm like, okay, look at me. Let's concentrate on your forefinger. And they look at me, they're like, what do you mean? And within 3 minutes, they're like, it's that easy? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have to take a sleeping pill.
Your body can come back that easily? I'm like, yeah. Tell me, there's an app, there's a fertility app. What are the things are those the things that you teach, or is it only like these are the days that we should or we shouldn't have sex? Or is it much more than that?
So many things that I can say about that. The days to have sex, not to have sex. I feel like that's a very masculine paradigm. I think it's important to know like what your body is doing when you're ovulating, what the signs are that ovulation is coming up. All of those are valid. And those are, for us, like those are education about myself that I never got as a woman.
Most people don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people didn't. And it's okay. We can do it now. So absolutely, I want people to learn their bodies and to learn their cycles. But the apps that are predicting ovulation, or you pee on these strips that tell you when ovulation is about to happen or when it's happening, are all a little too much control on the fertility journey. And I find that it's better and like most of our couples will come back and and tell us, I wasn't even aware that I was ovulating. Like, how did I get pregnant? This is like couples that have been trying to conceive for years that will like come back and say, what? How did this happen? And
Take the stress off, right?
yeah,
We must do this.
we took the stress, but the stress is more from the things that they are doing, right? Like it's from, I have to know exactly when I ovulate, and now I have to make my partner get ready to have sex with me so that we can get pregnant. And he's like, I want no piece of this. Like, I do not want to have sex on the pressure of getting you pregnant, right? So
And it's
when
true.
we
It's
take
such pressure.
it's so much. So
Yeah.
when we can take that away and instead instill this, like, hey, you have a window of 7 days almost where you could potentially get pregnant and you don't have to time it. You can follow the signals that your body is giving. Our body is so incredible to the point where our sex drive increases automatically before we are about to ovulate. Every time I think about how much wisdom the body has to be able to procreate and that our bodies are designed for it. We don't have to make anything happen. We just have to remove the obstacles that are in the way. So the obstacles that are often in the way are things that we don't even think about. So stress is one of them. We can't always remove the stress. Our approach with it is, how do we help your body deal with the stress better? Then we have obstacles that are like inflammation and microbes in our gut, or microbes in our vaginas, or our menstrual cycle is off, the hormones are not working properly. Those are all obstacles that are making it significantly harder to get pregnant. I have always been a fan of, how do we figure out those things as quickly as possible? And if we can figure out what it is that is in the way of you getting pregnant and get rid of it, then all of a sudden you can get pregnant. So the app that we've really created is, how do we figure out these obstacles?
Nice.
And it will help people figure out the obstacles by answering a few questions. It takes about 15 minutes on average, and it'll take them through a journey of trying to assess what's happening in their bodies, what's happening in their environment, in their lives. And from that, assess what are the three most likely obstacles that are in their way. And then from that point, they can either choose more testing, or they can say, hey, that is spot on. I want to go ahead and follow the plan that will get rid of these obstacles for me. So yeah, so that's what the app is about. It's called Madre Fertility.
Madre Fertility. I love it. It's super good. One last thing and then we'll wrap up. What
Yeah.
about age and fertility? Because I know a lot of women in their phase, their one
Yes.
dream is to get pregnant.
Age and fertility is a very fun conversation. I was just at a conference of very conventional medical doctors, all fertility doctors. And one of the presenters presented his research that he's doing. And what he's finding is that age is less the factor than epigenetics, which are the genes that are expressing or not expressing in women who are quote unquote older, that are not responding to treatment. And their context is very IVF related, but still it was a very interesting talk for me, because I was like, oh my God, this is exactly the stuff we do. Because we can assess the genes and say, hey, these genes are out of whack. Let's turn this off, turn this on with nutrients, and be able to get very different outcomes. So I think, what would I say about this? I think that we have really created this idea that female fertility drops off of a cliff at 35, while male fertility does not have any effect after older years. And that is also being disproven right now. There was another research paper talk on paternal age. And basically, the older that men get, the higher the chances of autism, diabetes, all kinds of diseases for the child that are being passed down through the father's side and have to do with the father's age. We really need to disconnect this idea that age has anything to do with fertility. But I think what we need to reframe is it's not necessarily your physical age or your chronological age, but what does your body's age actually represent? And in your biology, you have the effect of inflammation and toxins and the stress that you've been under and the partying lifestyle that anyone had for in their 20s is now showing up in the 40s as an impact to fertility. And sometimes we have the opportunity to reverse some of that and get to a point where the person is going to be able to get pregnant. And other times, unfortunately, this is also true, is like the damage has been done to the point where it's going to be really hard to reverse. So, my conversation with a lot of women is let's assess what's happening. Let's figure out what the root causes are. Mm-hmm. And then we decide and say, hey, yes, we can reverse this, or no, this is not going to be worth it. And I'll give you an example. I have a 43-year-old who was trying to conceive. She has been trying to conceive for 3 years. She talked to me about 2 years ago, and I was like, we need to move. If you want to do this, like, I can help you, but we need to do it now. And she comes back 2 years later and is like, now I'm ready. And I was like, I adore you guys, but this is going to be really hard. Like, at this point, her AMH, which is a hormone that tells us how many eggs there are in the ovaries, or like an estimate. When that number is very, very low, it says probably not a lot of eggs for us to work with. So they were like, that's fine. We're just going to try it because we've done all this other stuff and now we are ready for the natural stuff. We started working with them. Her AMH went from 0.1, which is almost non-existent, there's no eggs, to 0.57, which is very good for her age. Not a full turnaround, like not a guarantee still, but significantly better than where it was. So it is very plausible that she is going to be able to get pregnant now versus prior. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is actually a good path.
Where they're just no plan,
Yeah.
no, not a lot of chance.
Yeah, exactly. And they both came in with a lot of GI inflammation, microbes out of whack. They live between Mexico and Singapore, so kind of going back and forth, travel, the stress on their bodies and their lives, the amount of things that were happening under the surface. So we address all of those things and they're like, oh my God, we feel amazing. This is the best we've felt in a very long time. And our hormones are better. His sperm are better. Her eggs are better, like all around the board. Now we've created an environment where if the body wants to conceive, it will.
It can.
And it can in a healthy
Now
way.
that feminine energy is ready to receive, right?
Yes,
It's a win-win
yes,
situation.
exactly.
It works,
Yeah,
but you've at least bettered your life force, the way that your body works and the way that they both feel much better already.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, how
exactly,
beautiful.
exactly.
Beautiful. Tell me, how do people get in touch with you?
The best way is on Instagram at Holistic Fertility Doctor. Reach out, send a DM, whatever. And if they're interested in that app, then madrefertility.com. Amazing.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Juliette.